Ons gesels vanoggend met Yamkela Ntola van Outa en Benoit Leroy van die WSSA oor 'n gesamentlike projek tussen Outa en Water Shortage South Africa met betrekking tot die vestiging van 'n onafhanklike waterregulator. So good morning and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start with some background regarding this project. Why do we need an independent water regulator?
Sure. So thank you very much for having myself and Benoit on your show. It really came through a lot of the conversations we were already having with Water Shortage South Africa and a lot of the work that we have already being undertaking as the organization undoing tax abuse. And what we have identified is a gross failure in regulating the water sector by the Department of Water and Sanitation. So this, we've identified certain symptoms such as the lack of monitoring water quality as well as wastewater quality, which is the blue and green drop report. So if you know any background on that, these are reports that the government publishes periodically. And they basically tell us the quality of our drinking water as well as our wastewater. The last publication was in 2014. Last year, the department had indicated in Parliament that they're currently working on the 2015 report, as 2016 and 17 is still in process. So you can imagine that if they can't get the 2015 report out now, then when will we get the 2018 report? So, and the basis of these reports, among other things, is to indicate the status of our water. So if there are any issues with regards to it, then those issues can be addressed, immediately. And it eases the conscience of the consumers to know the quality of the water that they're drinking. So another issue you would have seen is the pollution that we're starting to see in the Vaal.
Yes.
So that's just a symptom. That's just one of the example of how bad a situation can be. Last year, December, they indicated that there are 40 sanitation schemes that are either non-compliant or have completely failed. So this is a regulatory function, and there are a plethora of others that the department is supposed to undertake. And the failure of undertaking this basically hampers the extent to which they're supposed to regulate and creates uncertainty with regards to the regulatory function of the department. So the position of both Water Shortage and Outa is that if we were to have a regulator that is independent, meaning that it has no political influence, this will then aid certainty with regards to regulation and perhaps even further aid drawing in the necessary investment that is needed to unlock the economics and investor potential around that. I know the department had indicated in 2015-16 that we need about 870 billion rand in order to deal with issues pertaining to water and sanitation. So it's this huge sum of money, and there are these potholes that you see along the way that could hamper that.
So Benoit, I would also like to discuss some of the key drivers of this initiative.
Okay, so the biggest one is food security, then energy, and then the day-to-day water. We call it small water. We need about 2 liters of water a day to function. But we need about 2,000 to 3,500 calories a day for a dignified life. That's 2,000 to 3,500 liters of water per day. Household about 200, 235 per person. So we call the big water, the food water, the big water. So our national food security is at risk. So apart from recapitalizing the sector with the 870 billion plus, which is last year's number, it's growing every day, that we don't invest, is our water is also fully allocated, I must add, since 2002, and that's a DWS, Department of Water Sanitation statement. So we need to find new water. Municipalities are leaking 37% on average. Johannesburg's over 40% apparently, more or less. Nobody really knows, it's not regulated. So we need a regulator like we have in energy, nurses, independent, depoliticized. So infrastructure takes 10 to 20 years to put in place. From a planning to implementation for water, it's a lot longer than energy, and we're quite slow on energy. In water, we would be, I think, a bit slower than we should be. So the regulator is not subjected to political cycles. Agriculture needs 63% of the water.
Wow.
For the big water. So we need to focus on that, and there is no water available, despite it being polluted also at the moment or partially compromised.
Yeah. I'm quickly going to interrupt you there. We'll continue this discussion just now.
Ons gaan voort met vanoggend se gesprek oor 'n gesamentlike projek tussen Outa en Water Shortage South Africa met betrekking tot die vestiging van 'n onafhanklike waterregulator en ons gesels met Benoit Leroy, hoofuitvoerende beampte van WSSA en dan ook Yamkela Ntola van Outa. So good morning and welcome again.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've identified, among other things, the following lapses in water regulation that highlight the need for the regulator, and I would like to refer to some of them. Blue and green drop reports have not been published since 2014. The Vaal River is seriously polluted by untreated sewage discharge. Water pricing in municipalities is not regulated, resulting in under-recoveries and compromised services. Agriculture is not able to access the required volumes and quality of irrigation water during normal seasons and drought. And municipalities are on average leaking 37% of their water. So these findings really create concern with regard to the Department of Water and Sanitation's ability to manage and maintain what they are supposed to.
No, it definitely does. And I think it's important to also highlight that both Outa and Water Shortage South Africa, and I think Benoit could speak more to it because he's a water engineer, is that we're very much aware that there are capable people within the department who can undertake these functions. But the problem is that what we're seeing is the extent of political influence that is hampering their ability to execute these functions. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, if we're looking at something like water pricing per municipality, now these would vary depending on which water board is providing potable water to a municipality. But what you tend to find, and I think if you dig further enough in the parliamentary archives, you'll see that it varies from water board to water board. A few water boards have even indicated that they've had to raise tariffs because they were running at a loss for the previous financial year. So that's what informs the price of water. Now, that's compounded by the fact that we're leaking on average 37% of our water. And despite there being programs put in place, we're seeing no successes for these programs. Neither are these programs being budgeted for. So there's a further wastage within the water budget of about 3 billion for, it's called the War on Leaks program. And if you had time to look at the SCOPA hearings last year, you'll note that there was no budget allocated for it. Neither could the department speak to its status in terms of the success of the program. So there's all these issues that are hampering the regulatory functions of the department. So that is why our stance comes forth and says there's clearly political interference in how the department is supposed to undertake its function. And if you remove that function, then it will be able to proceed independently, irrespective of what administration takes over.
Benoit?
I think there's a very important point to add to this is you can't be player and referee at the same time. So the Department of Water and Sanitation is a custodian of our water that was nationalised in 1998. So it's our water, as are minerals. Okay. So below the ground, on the ground, and above the ground we can discuss later. We haven't thought about air water. The majority of our bulk water is produced by Department of Water and Sanitation, not what's in the dams, which is it operates. The water boards are owned by Department of Water and Sanitation. How can it regulate itself? It can't. It can't check its own quality, its pricing and the likes. We have catchment management agencies which are completely controlled really by Department of Water and Sanitation. You're supposed to have, I think, 9, only 2 are semi-operational. So a regulator would regulate the catchment management agencies and would regulate the quality, the quantity and the pricing irrespective of the political party ruling, be it central, national government, provincial government, or local government, which is the distributor of water. Cape Town, for example, loses 1.5 billion a year of its 5.5 billion water budget, water and sanitation together. So it subsidizes that water deficit through rates and taxes, which means our clinics can't be developed, the security on the trains, for example, attracting tourism more, so creating job opportunities. So we need to depoliticize. We need to put the people involved in the regulatory function within Department of Water Sanitation into the regulator and really use the NERSA copy-paste. If you look at the front page of NERSA, use that strategy and the outputs and basic metrics, replace energy or electricity with water, and we have something to go.
And how do you think the department is going to receive this initiative?
Well, we don't know. I mean, part of our discussion is obviously engaging all the interested and affected stakeholders. So it will include agriculture, mining, manufacturing, food and beverage industries, as well as the department, municipalities, water boards. And this is basically to explore what policy certainty around South Africa's water would look like, with a desire that this could then further be developed into the necessary amendments within the water legislation that would speak to an independent water regulator. So our intention is firstly to reach out. I mean, we don't want to do this without the department. We will definitely be reaching out to DWS and any other interested department, as well as industry players in the sector.
Of course, whatever you are planning to do, and if you listen to the plans that you guys are actually bringing to the table, you just want to bring something forward that's best for everyone.
Oh, definitely.
But I actually want to go and extend and ask, do they actually have a choice? Because at this stage, they haven't brought anything to the table that's viable.
What we're really trying to do is we want to catalyze the reaction. In other words,
Okay.
we're going to help make it happen. Minimal cost to the fiscus, because industry and water users will be funding the initiative to an extent, and so that the department can participate in something that it's been trying to do this since 2008, and politically it has been stunted. So we're not going to take part in the reaction, we're going to facilitate it. And the stakeholders, so 60% of the water used by agriculture, they've come to us and asked us, what can you do? We need water. We can't get water use licenses. We've got a lot of emerging farmers. They cannot start. They don't have water. And there is no new water, so we have to modify the pie. 20% is industry. Industry is going to countries where there's more water security and the likes. So we're really here to catalyze the reaction without taking part in it. And there's a lot of support to do this. And obviously we thank you guys, because this is creating awareness as to the issue before it gets out of hand. And also the 870 billion needed to recapitalize the sector can't come from the fiscus. We've seen what's happening with Eskom and NERSA and the over-indebtedness of that sector. We don't want that in the water sector. And the regulator would go a long way to providing certainty for the recapitalization, for investors and the likes, but also it will give a lot of certainty in the planning for the next 10 to 20 years, irrespective of who's running government. And I think that's very important.
So how long will it take for this project to be fully implemented?
We're looking at it. What we're trying to do is to have a document in Parliament within the next 24 months or sooner. So that's our time frame. It's not 2 months, it's 2 years, but maximum.
And I mean, if you take a look at one of the lapses that we've referred to earlier in terms of the municipalities that are leaking 37% of their water on average, do you think that this project or initiative could also serve as a solution to the water shortage problem experienced in some parts of South Africa?
Yes, so I mentioned Cape Town, there's 1.5 billion shortage on the water and sanitation tariff. But on the flip side, we're wasting 37% water on average. Cape Town, pre-drought, was 14.7%. So Cape Town went from 25 down to that. They've done pressure management. This is what the other cities need to do. We can't recapitalize all of that water infrastructure overnight. But through pressure management, which is a drought management tool, we're also able to stop the leaks, lower the pressure at night and the likes. This is not plumbing work. This is civil engineering, mechanical engineering work. And this is why the War on Leaks program hasn't worked. You can train 10,000, 100,000, 10 million plumbers. You're not going to sort out a 4-meter bulk main with a plumber. Okay. So the regulator would say, this is your water, this is the pie, this is your water, this is the volume you can get, so you need to pinch those leaks. And that would force it, and it has nothing to do with politics. Purely, this is your size of the pie. So we're running out of water in Pretoria at the moment, in parts of Pretoria where it's hot, and northern Johannesburg and Midrand, because Rand Water doesn't have more water. The infrastructure and its water use license says that's the fixed amount of water in the pie we can pump. So we need to stop the leaks, yes.
Lastly, what are some of the challenges with regard to the process of this project?
It'll likely, well, what we foresee is that there may be oppositions from different sects of industry and perhaps even society. So we are moving forward, in optimism, hoping that we can at least be able to sit across the table and discuss, what the issues are, what's the best way of resolving them. Our solution is that, water needs to be independently regulated, and there may be constraints in doing so. Some people may raise the fact that just because you have a nurse, it doesn't mean you're devoid of all issues, because despite what's happening in energy, there's still issues within NERSA, and that's a fair assessment and a fair criticism. But water isn't where energy is, and what we are saying is that if you are able to tackle this issue aggressively now, we may avoid the kind of challenges that are currently facing NERSA in energy. So that's one of the things that we foresee.
Thank you indeed. It was a very interesting discussion this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
So dit was dan Benoit Leroy van WSSA en dan ook Jan Kilantola van Outa.